Here we are talking about becoming retail, really our look in the hearts and minds of retail leaders to understand not only where we are today, but the future of this amazing industry. And to really walk us through her journey and give her perspectives, we have Eileen Rizzo here, CIO of Ashley Stewart, to really get into becoming retail. So welcome, Eileen. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, let's start at the beginning. You've had a storied, real history in retail, the industry. Can you talk a little bit about your journey and really where it started? How did it get you into it? What got you excited about the industry?
Really started in graduate school when I was getting my MBA, and I took a marketing retail class and then went on to do an internship for the largest retailer in Australia at the time. And it was from that experience that I knew that I wanted to go into retail. When I graduated consulting, a small boutique called Lake West Group, then went to go work for Joan and David retail, then went back to consulting with Accenture, and from there hit JCPenney, Macy's, and now Ashley Stewart.
Nice. Now, obviously, you're on the technology side now. If you look back on your career, has it always been on the tech side, or have you held other roles throughout your time?
Yeah, no, the last 2 years has been technology focused. Prior to that, it was all in the business itself, business process, operations, strategy, and a lot of systems implementations, which is what led me into the technology role that I'm in today.
Oh, I love it because, our hypothesis in going into this, and it's really bearing out, is that many retail leaders have held different roles, both on the business and the IT side. Can you talk a little bit about that transition? We've often seen it from the IT side to the business. You went the other way. What do you think that experience that you've had on the business has translated, or what impact has it had on your leadership style and your effectiveness on the IT side?
So I'll address the effectiveness on the IT side first. I think in order to be effective in providing systems that support and enable the strategies of retail, it really is coming from a foundation of understanding the retail processes and the inventory management, planning, purchasing, allocating, shipping, selling. Moving in some cases, the inventory is all a critical component to really understanding how to best design and build the systems to support the business.
Yeah, so your investments now as an IT leader really are grounded in what the business needs and really practical, I would imagine.
That as well as the strategic component, because it's very difficult to have any strategy today that does not involve a technology component to deliver on that strategy for the customer. And understanding, most importantly, how the data interweaves and plays and connects across channels between your stores, catalog, brick and mortar, e-com, whatever channels that you're presenting to the customer. It's super critical.
Yeah. So as you think back again on your story career, is there an interesting story or a moment in time that really helped shape your career, whether it shifted you into one direction or another, or really helped refine how you think about leading the company and influencing others to really achieve a common goal?
In the early part of my career at JCPenney, I had a leader say to me, do you want to be right or do you want to be liked? And I thought it was the most horrible thing that was ever said at the time, because for me, it wasn't really about either. But the point was that when you are doing these major transformational programs, which I feel like retail is constantly going through, you have to be a little bit of both, right? So it isn't about feeling that you're right or knowing that you're right and going for it, and or just trying to be liked and therefore maybe not doing what's right for the business, but doing what people want you to do for the business. It's really a fine line in managing the change for those transformational projects. And that, I would say, was probably one of my biggest lessons in life, that you have to constantly be thinking about the change for others, how others are perceiving it, how are they going to embrace the technology, how are they going to embrace the strategy, how are they going to execute it, how are they going to ensure the success of any given program.
Yeah, I mean, that gets to the heart of becoming retail. You mentioned transformational projects have been going on for quite some time in retail. And while in many cases, and now almost every case, has a technology or digital component, at the end of the day, it comes down to people both leading and executing. So let's talk, I mean, a bit about transformation. As you mentioned, it's something we've been going through for quite some time. And now the word digital is put in front of it. And certainly there's a lot of cachet, only accelerated, it feels like, given the onset of COVID. Can you talk a little bit about, when you think about transformation in general or digital transformation, what are some of the keys to success? What has worked for you over the years? What has really led to successful projects, whether that's an impact on finance or the innovation?
Sure. So I think three top things come to mind. The first is perseverance, that you have to be able to understand and believe in the strategy, but also be willing and agile and flexible to change as necessary. Two, it has to be grounded in facts, with the customer really at the focus of that. And the customer is voting every single day on what he or she is looking for and what they want. And the ability and agility to be able to respond to that is critical. And then I think there's a third component of it, which is you have to be thinking about the greater good of the organization and the customer, and not your specific role or silo within an organization. And I think that that third component of it is the one that often gets in the way and makes it more difficult or challenging or elongate the process of getting change rolled out or enabled in organizations.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, the perseverance and agility, especially because we know we need to, especially now, pivot quickly. I know you have in your current role, just you didn't have a choice. You had to get really scrappy to get through this global crisis. And then, smack dab in front of holiday, where you need to obviously be agile and figure out what that's going to look like. Well, you touched upon it in, what makes a successful digital transformation, but maybe look at it from the opposite. What are some of the obstacles? What are some of the things that get in the way? You talked about change, obviously, is extremely important. What has, in your experience, really gotten in the way? And have you, most importantly, gotten over that?
Look, in all of the major transformational programs and throughout my career, oftentimes what you find the biggest obstacle to change is what I'm going to call the siloed thinking of folks. And when you look at retail and the digital transformation, going from a pure e-com play retailer and or a pure store retailer into enabling the omni-channel capabilities, the buy online, curbside pickup, the buying in store and shipping from online, any of those capabilities that are really about getting the customer what she wants and when she wants it, requires organizationally or from a business perspective, two different sides or silos to come together, an e-com side and a store side. And even when you talk about the marketing component of it, the operational component, the logistics component, the inventory management component, all of it is impacted. And the ability to say it's the right thing for the customer. So how do you enable it versus what are all the problems with enabling it and why you can't do something? That is what I just continue to see, particularly in this COVID times as well. Those that are able to say this is the objective and they put the small team around meeting that objective are more likely to be first to market and or achieve than when you want to manage by consensus and bring everybody together and get everybody aligned or agreeing to what it is that you're going to be doing.
Yeah. So interestingly, from a tech executive perspective, you see the obstacle of silos, and it makes sense just how retail grew up and
Sure.
operated for decades, if not centuries. How and what influence can technology leaders have on breaking down those silos?
From a technology perspective, I like to think of it as sort of a Switzerland or a third party neutral.
Mhm.
And so I do think when you look at the evolution of CIOs and technology people within the C-suite, it's a big part of the reason why they're there. It's to help sort of understand and listen to both sides of the equation and talk about how you can achieve with technology, the happy medium, and or the objective, and how to be able to give the visibility or the insight to both sides so that they can continue to run and operate their business and feel comfortable with it.
Yeah. So, you had pointed out in the past to me, and rightfully so, challenged some of our leadership principles that the importance around digital transformation requires change management. You've touched upon that throughout the course of the last few minutes, but let's hone into that a little bit more. Obviously, inspiring people is important to have it to the vision and really be clear on how to execute. What are some of the tactics as you think about it on change management and really getting people excited and motivated and informed as to how to move from where we are today to whatever that future vision looks like?
Yeah, I mean, and I'll be honest, the reason I have that viewpoint is probably more from failures than it is from successes, right? So when I look back at the projects that I've done and or where the most, for lack of a better word, the lack of success came from, it often had to do with adoption and then the overall management of change. And so anytime I go into a project now, what I try to do is to say, okay, who is impacted? How will they be impacted? Have we really understood all of the different organizational components, roles, responsibilities, how they're going to change? And like I said, more importantly, the reporting or visibility, because that's what people really live and breathe for. And then how that's going to change and doing those. So what I try to do is encourage my team to really meet with the business partners to delve into those questions, to identify, current processes, future processes, and more importantly, try to give them visibility to what their world is going to become prior to it getting there. So tell them what's going to happen, show them what's going to happen, and then continue to remind them so that when the time comes, it's not a completely foreign concept. And it's almost like, okay, you said this was going to happen. I now know how to handle it.
Yeah. So, what I thought I heard was understand adoption, because you can't just build it and hope people come. Help the end user understand the impact on their role. And third, really give them a vision and visibility in a state can and should look like, and hopefully get them excited about it. There'll be change in how they're doing things day to day, but hopefully it'll either make them more productive or more successful or more efficient.
Correct. And then the key component to that also is that, you can't put a change management team just focused on that. You have to have the leadership buy-in and support. And if the leadership team isn't embracing and adopting and helping reinforce, then you're going to face more resistance and challenges throughout the journey.
So, Eileen, with the amazing experience you've had with digital transformation, you must think about, or at least reflect on, leadership and what has made not only the program successful, but your role in it. So when you think about your leadership attributes or principles, what are some of the things that come to mind that you lean into to really motivate and lead?
So I think there's the transparency and honesty. And my former CEO often spoke about honesty and kindness. So that there has to be that balance of really putting yourself in other people's shoes, and really understanding where they're coming from, and trying to handle that purpose, transparency, but kindness.
I like that. So how does the transparency piece manifest? I guess it probably goes back a bit to your ideas around adoption and impact and visibility, just being forthright and honest as to what particularly the end user will experience with any program. But also, I guess, how does that look for folks that report directly to you?
Yeah. So, I try to just say communicate, communicate, communicate. You have to be able to tell people what you're seeing, provide the context, and then look for the information that's necessary to move forward. I've been accused of being brutally honest, and sometimes too forthright and direct. It is that kind of directness that I really do think has also provided me the ability to get results and to be able to lead again a transformation or project through to fruition.
Yeah, well, I can speak from a strategic partner perspective. That is so beneficial because then there's no ambiguity, there's no gray areas
Right.
to where you stand, and more importantly, how we can support you and how we can also be agile in your changing needs or what the business or ultimately your consumers need. So,
Yeah.
net, I think it's a very positive attribute and way to go about it. So, let's shift a little bit to retail. You're clearly passionate about this industry. It's more than just a job for you, right? I
Right.
mean, it's part of your identity. You and I have seen each other around all places
Over
in the
years.
country over the years, right?
Yeah.
And it's part of our DNA when you think about it. So
Right.
just, what to you, if you can put it in words, what is it about retail that makes it so special and really keeps you and, many of us, including me, amazing, but also crazy industry that we're in?
Well, I'll build on your word crazy because it's continually changing and evolving, and that is what I love about it.
Mhm.
If you're successful and you sit back and say, "Oh, I've reached the sales that I want, and my customers coming, and life is good," and you don't evolve, you end up dying. And that is one of the things that got me most excited and passionate about retail was looking at and studying over time the changes and evolution of retail formats, of offerings to consumers, of the different ways to shop. And now, obviously, the digital transformation is the biggest, thing that it's been out there for a while, but COVID, it clearly, to your point, has accelerated and even brought new ideas to the table and into the format that maybe were there before, but not necessarily readily adopted consumer. So I am constantly learning new things about retail, learning new technologies, watching the customer constantly changing and evolving and what she's looking for. So it's super exciting, and there's always somebody who's innovating and bringing something new to the table. So it's exciting.
So let's hone in on that for a moment. So we talk about COVID really accelerating digital transformation, changing consumer expectations. You talked about the rise of different formats and new innovation. When we look back on this, what are some of the things, or even just one thing that will stick from a consumer experience, from a consumer shopping experience that, likely we would have gotten there in 3, 4, 5 years or so, but it's now here and it's kind of part of the shopping process moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the biggest thing is when you look at sort of Amazon on the go, or you look at the notion of click and collect, of just with the digital, selecting what you want, putting it in the cart, and then being able to drive by and pick it up, whether it's in a fast food establishment, whether it's in a grocery store, whether it's in those small market formats or retail, of being able to say, okay, I know exactly what I want, and I have that convenience to be able to just go in, pay, and in some cases go curbside up to a door and have somebody bring it to your car. That is only going to continue to evolve because of the ease and convenience of it, and it gives the consumer back more time.
Yeah, ease and convenience feels like it's the new loyalty. I mean, last holiday season, we saw those retailers that had buy online, pick up at store capabilities saw an 18% higher share of revenue for the last 5 days leading up to Christmas because the ship date came. You couldn't get it to the customer's doorstep in time, but they could extend that shut-off date by getting it in the store or around the store. And, what was nice to have last holiday feels like it's table stakes. As you pointed out, moving forward, it's really the idea of buying online with the confidence and being able to pick it up with the convenience. And it's not a terrible thing for retailers either, right? Because you're essentially outsourcing that last mile to the customer.
Correct. And I think it's going to be even more critical this holiday season when you look at what's happening already from a logistics perspective, let alone the overcapacity that's forecasted, but the surcharges that are coming with that capacity challenge of our third-party logistics providers. Click and collect from a consumer for that ease and convenience to be able to do that last minute and do it safely. Critical.
Totally critical. And so, okay, I want to finish on one or two questions specific to COVID-19. It's hard to have a conversation like this without really acknowledging, getting your perspective on it. Before we do that, though, fun question. I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Okay.
And you're only allowed one word answer, maybe a hyphen. I don't know. We'll see. But so here's the question. Let's see how you do. It's, if you had one word to describe retail, what would it be?
Exciting.
Exciting. I like it. It didn't take you long to think about that, right? So
because it is just what got me into retail to begin with. It's,
So, okay, thank you for playing along. That's awesome. I love it. I love that you say exciting with such passion, which could be another word as well, right?
Sure, right.
So let's Eileen, kind of wrap this up. As I mentioned, it's hard to not really want to get your perspective on what we're going through right now. And I want to do this at kind of a personal level and then a professional leadership level. And so, what has the current situation taught you about yourself and your role in retail?
Oh, boy. Maintaining positive, from a leadership perspective, to gather and to be able to invigorate and keep the team motivated and moving. I would say that's one that is a role that I've got to continue to try to play. And then from a retail perspective, again, it just goes back to the ever-changing and evolving is retail is not going to die, right? It's foundational and it's necessary. So it's about how do you meet the needs of the customer in a challenging time and do it safely, and do it in a way that enables you to continue to remain in business, right? Because there's the entire expense challenge side of things that you have to manage in addition.
Yeah, just another example of the excitement and craziness. But I love the positive piece, by the way.
Yeah.
My father, almost every day growing up, would have a phrase, PMA, positive mental attitude.
Yeah.
And so to start off the day feeling like it's going to be a great day. And he was in retail for decades and decades as well. So
yeah, I mean, and to the earlier comments about transparency, I know I've gotten on calls with my team that just said, this is difficult. It's so hard, right? It's so. I'm not trying to, say that COVID isn't there and there's not this impact on everybody in, having your kids at home and trying to function in your job while you're managing the family and the dog and I could go on and on.
Right.
So acknowledging and being transparent and honest that it's there, but also trying to say, I can remember when this all first started saying, we survived week 2, we survived week 3. And then, after week 10, I stopped counting. It's like, okay, this is our new norm and we can do it. And we've proven we can. So it's good.
You got it. I love it. Hey, thank you so much for sharing your journey, your perspective to becoming retail. Really appreciate it and loved the passion in which you speak about this industry that we love and, at the end of the day, shape the future. So thank you for that.
Oh, and thanks for having me. It's been great talking with you as always.